Welcome to another episode of the Architecture of Health. I'm Deb Voisin, and this week the topic is snake oil. Guys, I've got some right here. It's boa oil. I got in Ecuador on the Amazon from some pretty indigenous people. Snake oil. Why snake oil, Deb? Well, because it actually works. Snake oil is this smear that people use to claim that something natural doesn't work, or there's some kind of marketing dishonesty pushing a product that is fake. So I wanted to take a minute to talk through this topic a little bit because it's got so much relevance and irony at the same time. I remember when I was trying all sorts of natural remedies, like many other moms with this generation of kids that has been poisoned and is suffering from toxemia, we're looking all over the place for the answers. And honestly, once I learned to back off and look at the large systems and learn systemically how to detoxify the body, all sorts of things opened up. But I was in this sort of loop of the next thing, the next supplement, the next treatment, like the next thing is going to fix this. And guys, I actually did get at the solution to quote incurable diseases. But along the way, boy, did I ever get some crap from people saying, oh, that's just snake oil. B vitamins, that's just snake oil. So I got really defensive about this term. I actually researched it a little bit and found that the term snake oil originated in the 1800s, where a majority of the railroad workers were from Southeast China, and they had the oil from water snakes, I believe it. Yes, they had an oil that was a powerful anti-inflammatory because it was rich in omega-3s. So for the hard work on the railroad, for the arthritis and the bursitis, it was notably effective. So other people, of course, wanted it. It was hard to get enough supply. So an enterprising businessman named Clark Stanley became the rattlesnake king. So guys, he took this great idea of actual snake oil that was high in anti-inflammatory agents, and he became a shyster marketer that called himself the rattlesnake king. He created his version of snake oil that was far less effective and didn't have any snake oil at all. So the problem there is unethical marketing, lying about ingredients, taking something traditional and natural, bastardizing it with some patents or chemical processes, and then marketing it as something effective. The irony is that, it wasn't that long till Rockefeller controlled 90% of the American oil refineries and was looking for how do I patent petrochemical things and how do I push them, and decided that the medical industry was a great place to monopolize. Patent law also being shaped so that it excluded anything that occurs in nature. All of this shift was happening at a time the United States had been a place where holistic medicine was the norm. Chiropractic, Chinese medicine, herbs, what's it called? Homeopathy. I saw when I was in Kansas visiting home in a pioneer museum there, I saw the 1800s wagon with its supplies, and inside there was a dusty old weird homeopathy set. So when you think about life before wartime medicine, where you had the numbing agents that allowed surgery and cutting, and allowed, honestly, some of the most amazing innovations in human history. But before that, the terrain was very widespread, that people had to take care of their own health, and there were all these natural things that were normal. Well, what happened, that was in I think the early 1900s. Well, over time, as the Rockefeller started to get the controlling interests in defining what medical schools could and couldn't teach, and the patent system gets into place, pretty soon we had a much more of a hostile environment for natural things. Something very natural cannot be patented, like I said before. So the interesting thing is, if we take this lens of snake oil and ethics, does something really work? The the funny thing is I have people when I'm trying natural things to improve health, maybe it's even sunlight, natural things. The scorn from those invested in an emergency medical system is palatable. Um, and it's understandable they don't get that they've been indoctrinated, literally indoctrinated into this paradigm where they're always looking at a petrochemical or a surgical or a spot solution to a problem by virtue of the way that system is designed. Like, of course, that's the way I used to think, guys. So the interesting thing is, I had this understanding of the story in the background of, oh, snake oil, real snake oil works. The right breed, the right kind of snake oil works. That's the name of this episode. When I was in Ecuador and I had something going on and I wasn't digesting right and I was not feeling good. And then the locals told me to put some of this smeared on my belly. Now, I also ate papaya seeds, so it wasn't the only thing, but I noticed a relief when I used the real thing. And I was so happy that I finally had this experience of real snake oil working in a natural context where people were used to taking care of their own problems. This family was pretty far away from being able to get to any Western medicine. So the interesting thing is if we kind of flip the script, if we look in the United States, for example, where the leading cause of death is medicine, who's marketing unethically here? Is it really the guy selling the precursors to glutathione that help your body build its own detoxification? Is it really the people helping reduce EMF exposure in measurable ways and decreasing inflammation? Are those really snake oil salesmen when you can measure and prove the changes? Well, we have to apply the same standard. Can we measure the change? Can we measure the effectiveness of an emergency medical system? Every year, there are 128,000 deaths in the United States from people taking medications as prescribed, as described even by the British Medical Journal, BMJ. I hope that's what it is. Errors were the third leading cause of death in the United States, medical errors. So that's another 251,000 deaths of Americans a year. Now, of course, am I saying emergency medicine is bad? No, heck, that's what it's best for. It just doesn't work for chronic conditions that require a more integrated approach that accounts for how the body systems are interconnected. Now, one of the ways this information got so hidden is that as of 2020, for example, 75% of all the ad spend revenue, at least on TV, was from pharmaceutical companies. That I believe that counts social media, Google ads, news. Like the pharmaceutical companies in the United States are allowed to advertise and spend a lot of money controlling the narrative through search engines. So honestly, what I learned when I was looking at real solutions that were sustainable and affordable and wouldn't make me a slave, what I found is I needed to hop outside of the heavily controlled search engine keywords. And if I was going to stay in the paywall, the technocratic paywalls of, say, Google, then I would need to do very compound searches that would get much different results than if I just look up, ADHD. But if I looked up ADHD, B vitamin deficiency research, or I did a much more compounded and nuanced search, I could sometimes get past those. Or you leave those controlled browsers altogether to do the real search. I ended up having to join private groups, some of them on Facebook, where we were all sharing different functional medicine results and sharing different experiments we did. Some of those groups had 10,000 people because honestly, the pharmaceutical system doesn't want those of us who have had amazing healing experiences to share. It threatens the idea that they're going to eventually sell you a petrochemical solution, a biochemical solution. In that group, there were people curing autoimmune disease, and they were curing, in some cases, Alzheimer's, and in some cases, seizures, Tourette's, epilepsy, food allergies. Oh, the list goes on of symptoms that our whole body has been disrupted. They all share a certain set of things that help our body heal. So those groups were really useful places to be. Yeah, pharmaceutical companies are the second largest digital advertiser. Here's one more little factoid about the real snake oil salesman here. Actually, no, the artificial snake oil salesman here. A public citizen report found some drug manufacturers spend more on advertising and executive compensation than on research and development. Guys, when moms like me give up even thriving careers to get at the truth and do their own research, that is one of the most threatening things to companies that aren't doing their job. And by dominating and monopolizing the public discourse, that's the only way they can stay in charge. So guys, I'm just so glad you're here with me. That's why I do this, because here we are changing the narrative and we are empowering ourselves and each other to feel better than ever together as naturally as we can. Sometimes we need a little nudge. I've taken antibiotics. I'm pretty sure they saved my life. I was glad to have a surgeon on hand if my birth wasn't going to happen naturally. I'm not saying that I don't respect and appreciate how many skilled physicians there are out there. But what I am saying is that there's been this malignment of natural medicine, calling it snake oil, when the only problem is unethical marketing. Now, am I cautious about buying supplements? Yes. You can buy something on Amazon and have no idea if what's in the bottle is actually what is claimed. So I've learned to be a little more discerning about that. But guys, just remember, real snake oil that has an ancestral tradition that comes from the specific snake that's used in the specific way that humans might have used for hundreds of years, it actually works. Highly marketed things that are new, where the narrative is controlled and squashed if there's any protest of the number of side effects, or if the number of deaths isn't front and center. You know, guys, what if I was a politician, and God, no, I'll never be that. I would, if in fact there is a way that the FDA, which is currently controlled, it's monopolized. That's part of the reason scary things happen, is we think there's a regulatory agency watching out for us, but they're really not. They're just incentivized. They're highly incentivized to keep things the way they are, which is the most profitable possible for the pharmaceutical companies. But, you know, what if there was a government mandate? What if anyone who's taking a medication has to memorize the side effects before they can start taking the medication? I know that wouldn't work when people are really screwed up, but honestly, what is it? The average number of side effects? Is it something like 80? I can't remember, but that would at least sharpen our brains. And I think in the United States, I think the majority of people are on multiple prescription medications long term. And the side effects between multiple medications hasn't been thoughtfully studied. So just be careful out there. I know we all need a boost. And honestly, the placebo effect, guys, if you have a great relationship with your doctor and you're prudent and cautious and you're looking at the long term, then you'll design an experience that feels right for you. Even just the placebo effect is so powerful. I'm not telling anybody to get off of any medications. I'm saying have this long-term game plan, memorize side effects, keep digging away at the truth, and get as close as you can to natural solutions to modern problems. And no, I am not selling my only teeny couple of drops of boa constrictor oil. Bye, guys.